to do.
And you're talking about
I'm talking about like Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution, yet she supposedly came into a country by marrying her brother. Well, if that's true, she shouldn't be a congressman, and we should throw her the hell out of our country.
I mean, I have no worry. I don't know how they take away my citizenship and like deport me, but I don't even know like why that's such a scary threat. Like, I'm not the 8-year-old who escaped war anymore. I'm grown. My kids are grown. Like, I can go live wherever I want.
Yeah, I'm sure she could go live wherever she wants because she's now worth $30 million, allegedly from insider trading, just like the rest of them. Disgusting. The reason we don't have nice things in this country is because our government and the people that are in Congress and many others seem to be addicted to fraud, waste, and abuse. Let's get into it.
Did money from Minnesota taxpayers earmarked to feed hungry children wind up in the hands of a Somali terrorist group? The allegations center around a massive welfare fraud case being brought in Minnesota. A 78th defendant was charged just today. And now reports are coming out that some of the stolen money may have wound up in the hands of Al-Shabaab, a Somali-based terror group. In response, President Trump says he intends to end deportation protections for about 700 Somali nationals in Minnesota, calling Minnesota a, quote, hub for Somali gang networks, though he's provided no evidence for that. So what are the facts on the ground? Investigative correspondent Rich McHugh is at the federal courthouse in Minneapolis, Minnesota for us tonight. Rich, what are you learning?
Hi, Elizabeth. Well, we're at the federal courthouse where that 78th indictment came down just a few hours ago. All of it tied to Feeding Our Future. That's the corrupt nonprofit at the center of all of this fraud. We spoke with current and former federal sources, and they tell us billions have been stolen since 2019, that Minnesota is just riddled with fraud, and that a lot of this money goes back to Somalia, and a cut of all that money has gone to the Al-Qaeda-linked terror group Al-Shabaab. But I want to reset this for viewers because it's complicated. This all stems from Feeding Our Future. That's the largest COVID fraud ever. These criminals opened more than 200 federal child nutrition program sites throughout Minnesota, and sites lied, claimed to be serving meals to thousands of children a day. They created fake attendance rosters, fake invoices, and the government reimbursed them. David Gaither, he's a former state senator here. He saw this firsthand.
Rich, this is the Safari restaurant in downtown Minneapolis. This is the epicenter of some of the biggest fraud and waste and abuse in this area. The owner right now is currently in jail, federal jail. This restaurant, which seats about 35, supposedly served 18,000 plus meals a day.
A day?
A day for 7 months. 18,000 plus.
Now, Minnesota Rep. Ilhan Omar, she was a fixture at this restaurant, the Safari, during her run for office. I think we have a photo of her at the restaurant with her supporters in 2018. Feeding Our Future, that's that corrupt nonprofit. It was the epicenter of it, but others spawned from it. There were home relocation services, child autism. They were bilking $399 million in services fraud in 2023 alone. To date, 86 people have been indicted and counting. Federal authorities tell News Nation 79 of them are of Somali descent.
We've been holding accountable those that are the perpetrators of the crime. But we are not holding accountable those that created the opportunity to have those perps do what they did.
And that would be?
The policymaker, the Attorney General, and the administration.
Now, federal sources that we've spoken to, several of them, said the same thing to me, Elizabeth. They say there's a saying in the Somali community here that when it rains in Minneapolis, umbrellas go up in Mogadishu. That just about sums it up. Back to you.
Now, here's the thing. If you don't know, Ilhan Omar's district is in Minnesota, the 5th district. And look, is it a coincidence that all of these Somalians are getting caught for fraud? And they're saying allegedly she married her brother? I mean, come on. This is crazy. Now, if you see on the screen here, they're saying her net worth is between $6 to $30 million. She had a 3,500% increase in 1 year. This is not normal, folks. This is some Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Pelosi nonsense right here. I don't trust any of these people anymore except a few people, like maybe Byron Donalds. But the majority of these folks seem like they're doing insider trading. And then on top of that, we've got Ilhan Omar that is allegedly doing insider trading and allegedly running a fraud scheme out of Minnesota with Tim Walz and whoever else that isn't doing the responsible thing and reporting these things. Now there's over $1 billion that has been stolen out of Minnesota. What?
And to pause asylum into the U.S.
I think a long time.
Can you give any kind of time? What's
we don't
a long
want those
time?
people. We have enough problems. We don't want those people.
Is that a year, 2 years?
No time limit.
And then
But it could be a long time.
you said that
We don't want those people. Do you understand that?
I understand.
You understand it?
I understand.
Who
what
are
you're
you
saying.
with?
I'm with News Nation. So
Okay,
my
News
name's Libby
Nation.
D.
News Nation. Great.
Thank
Let
you.
me just tell you something. We don't want those people. Does that make sense? You know why we don't want them? Because many of them are no good, and they shouldn't be in our country.
What do you mean by those people? Can you clarify?
People from different countries that are not friendly to us, and countries that are out of control themselves. Countries like Somalia that have virtually no government, no military, no police. All they do is go around killing each other. Then they come into our country and tell us how to run our country. We don't want them.
How many countries roughly would you put on that list?
She said how many?
Yeah, how many countries? Yeah, would you
there a
put on that
list?
list?
Well, I guess we gave you 19, right? There's probably more than that.
Is that what you mean when you mean third world countries, those 19?
No, I don't think they're all third world, but in many cases they are third world. They're not good countries. They're very crime-ridden countries. They're countries that don't do a good job. They're countries that don't register from the standpoint of success. And we, frankly, don't need their people coming into our country telling us what to do.
When you talk about
And I'm talking about
denaturalization,
like Somalia, where you have a congressman goes around telling everybody about our Constitution, and yet she supposedly came into our country by marrying her brother.
If Ilhan Omar gets deported, loses her citizenship somehow because of fraud and lying, like they are allegedly saying that she is doing, I'm throwing a party. I'm calling off work, inviting everyone I know that agrees with me on this situation and throwing a party.
Breaking news, 400 government employees over in Minnesota have officially come out and accused Governor Tim Walz of knowing about the problem of Somalians defrauding the government and the welfare system as a whole and not doing absolutely anything about it. Not only did he know, but he actually went out and targeted whistleblowers and people who tried to get the truth out there to the public. Anybody who put American taxpayers before that of the immigrants who were coming to scam our system was punished harshly by Tim Walz. And that is because the left is a cult. If you go against them in any way, shape, or form, they try to absolutely destroy your life. There is no room for discourse or nuance, and God forbid you actually care about the American people first. That is their biggest nightmare. Anything that might earn them the label of racist, they're going to avoid like the plague. They don't care who it hurts so long as it's not their precious illegal immigrants. It doesn't matter to them, and it is disgusting. What universe are we living in? What timeline are we living in where it's racist to call something out for what it is? What timeline are we living in where it's racist to actually enforce law and order and say that if we are going to let you into our country, which by the way, it is a privilege to be here, then you not only have to follow the law, but you have to actually contribute something. Since when is it a crime to sit there and say you actually have to follow our legal immigration process because not just anybody is welcome into our country? You have to wait your turn and you have to do it the right way. This has nothing to do with race, but of course the left knows that they have to try to twist the narrative in order to get their way.
Dozens of people of East African descent have been charged, convicted, and sentenced for stealing more than $1 billion in taxpayer money from government programs during COVID. As you know, Governor, that is more than Minnesota spends each year to run its Department of Corrections. So I want to give you a chance to respond to this. Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can. But to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy.
Look, as I said before, this is why we cannot have nice things in this country, because people have been stealing for decades. The waste, fraud, and abuse has not only been happening since DOGE started looking at stuff. It's been going on forever. It's only now that we have transparency and that Elon and DOGE have done an audit showing the fraud and abuse that people are actually getting to see what things are like and how bad it actually is. And it's crazy because that's the stuff out of Congress with the NGOs, but we also have stuff on the state level like Minnesota, where they've stolen over $1 billion from the government. So we don't know how much money is actually being wasted, but I'm sure if it wasn't, and they actually were to get things done and get everything codified, we wouldn't be in the debt that we are in now. It's absolutely insane. It's hard to believe that any of these people care about us prior to President Trump getting into office. Elon had something to say about it. He said that we're actually saving $200 billion a year. Check it out.
What did DOGE teach you, if you learned one thing?
Well, it was like a very interesting side quest, because I just got to see like a lot of the, workings of the government. There's been quite a few efficiencies. I mean, some of them are very basic efficiencies, like just adding in requirements for federal payments that any given payment must have an assigned congressional payment code and a comment field with something in it that's more than nothing. Like that trivial seeming change, my guess is probably saves $100 billion or even $200 billion a year. Because there were massive numbers of payments that were going out with no congressional payment code and with nothing in the comment field, which makes auditing the payments impossible. So if you have to say, like, why can the Defense Department, or now the Department of War, why can it not pass an audit? It's because the information is not there. It doesn't have the information necessary to pass an audit does not exist, is the issue. So a bunch of things DOGE did were just very common sense things that would be normal for any organization that cared about financial responsibility. That's most of what was done. And it's still going on, by the way. DOGE is still happening. But it turns out when you stop fraudulent and wasteful payments, the fraudsters don't confess to this. They actually start yelling all sorts of nonsense that you're stopping essential payments to needy people. But actually, you're not. We get this thing like saying, oh, you've got to send this thing for whatever, it'd be like, this is going to children in Africa. And I'm like, yeah, but then why are the wiring instructions for Deloitte and Touche in Washington, D.C.? Because that's not Africa. So can you please connect us with the recipients of this money in Africa? And then there gets silence. I'm like, okay, we just want to literally talk to the recipients. That's it. And then we're like, oh no, it turns out for some reason we can't talk to them. I'm like, well, we're not going to send the money unless we can talk to the recipients and confirm they will actually get it. And then that's sort of fraudsters necessarily will come up with a very sympathetic argument. They're not going to say, give us the money for fraud. That's not going to be what they say, obviously. They're going to try to make these sympathetic sounding arguments that are false.
They're going to start an NGO and then...
Yeah, they're going to see NGO... It's going to be like the Save the Baby Pandas NGO, which is like, who doesn't want to save the baby pandas? They're adorable. But then it turns out no pandas are being saved, in this thing. It's just going to it's just corruption, essentially. And you're like, well, can you send us a picture of the panda? And like, no. Okay. Well, how do we know it's going to the pandas then?
I believe that if Congress would have actually codified everything that DOGE found and there wasn't so much pushback from the demonic people in Congress, we'd be saving $1 trillion a year or more, and we could actually tackle our national debt. But as long as we have all these crooked people in office that are just going in there to get rich and get out, like allegedly Marjorie Taylor Greene has done, and allegedly Ilhan Omar has done, and allegedly Nancy Pelosi, this is why. It doesn't really matter. Until these people are gone, the same thing's going to keep happening over and over. How do you get people in office to not be corrupted? Beats me. But somebody needs to figure that out. If you guys have any ideas, drop them in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. And if Ilhan Omar does get deported, like I said, I'm throwing that party. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.